So just as I was saying, the sclerology chart, you can find that online. There's a lot of naturopathic doctors that use that tool just by examining someone's eye, and looking at it and trying to get a better picture. And not saying we're here to diagnose or cure or anything of that sort, but just an education. The other is the facial chart on the different organs and where you can find those. I'm trying to see if I can focus that a little bit. But this comes in with Chinese medicine. So up on the top of your forehead, I'll try and point that out. So it would be right here. This is your liver. Okay. And also right underneath your eyes. Those can be indicative of some liver issue that could be simply addressed with maybe increasing your water or changing your habits and what you eat. Those are also coordinated together with the kidneys. So I just found that mapping of the face and of the eyes very interesting, and reminding of Matthew 6:22, the lamp of the body. And that's my contribution for tonight on that. And I know Rhonda has some great information on anger and the liver and this month that we're moving into this weekend.
Wow, Tish, I love that. I love that chart. Right before you said it, I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's the pituitary gland. That's where, right?
Yes.
That place right there, that secret place. Wow. That's a perfect verse for that. Was that chart a part of the sclera chart? The one with
Dr. Yuri.
Face?
Yeah, you can check, just Google it in. I did sclerology. Dr. Bill Yuri, Yeary. He's out of LTI.
Yeary. Okay. Bill Yuri. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't entered that course yet, but just a couple of things that I pulled up. I'm excited. I know our eyes say a lot about us.
Yeah.
And to find each specific organ there is just, it's really interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
I mean, if we step back and we take a look, the Father's going to show us things that we need to see, either in ourselves or in someone else, and just trying to help them. I can tell as illness has been moving through our home, my little girls that are 4 and 10, the whites of their eyes, you can see the congestion that's taking place, fevers, and you can see in the morning when you wake up and you haven't rested well, your eyes, it will be bloodshot, or it's just a mirror of us. And I think sometimes we just say, oh, I've got allergies, or it's from chlorine. Look what chlorine does to the whites of your eyes. I mean, it's just crazy. To stop and actually step back and think about this stuff. It's right here in front of us, So, and I think we've got so tied up in modern medicine is what we've been taught. And I know I have, walking through that for the last 35 years or longer. We don't stop to take the time to actually look at someone's face, look at their eyes, and what the Father's showing us. It's just, and then
I think being more aware of the physical allows us to be more aware of the spiritual.
Yes.
And so I think that's like super important. So I am so thankful for Tish and the knowledge that she's gaining and is so willing to share with us. And so if you want to type that up, Tish, we will gladly take your notes every month on these. And so I just appreciate how she brings that in, because I think realizing that connection between the physical and the spiritual, the physical and the emotional, and are we running on our emotions? And the sense for this month is anger. And so there's, when we're talking about judgment, like righteous anger, right? Like Yeshua had righteous anger, right? When he came in and he saw what was being done in his temple and how it was affecting those, the people who wanted to come in and worship. And so he had righteous anger. We think of Phineas and his righteous anger, because he was moved by the Spirit to do those things. But when we even though in our flesh, we may see what Simeon and Levi did to Shechem, as we read that Torah portion a couple weeks ago, we might feel like, I know my sons have said, I totally get that, but working out of, letting our emotions go instead of, spiritually asking the Father, okay, what can we do in this way? Or letting the Father take judgment, revenge is mine, saith Yahweh. Would he have taken care of Shechem, if they had pleaded on their sister's behalf? Would he have taken care of it where their hands would have been free, like Abigail and Nabal that we learned about in the wise woman? I think about that. So yeah, so we're going to segue over into Rhonda, and she's going to just talk to us a little bit about that, the emotion and the sense for this month, anger.
Yeah, Eric, I'm just thinking about order, right? The Father, there's a place for anger, righteous anger, or, being zealous for the Father, but it's order, right? It's his order. And like you said, if our emotions are not in check, then we're going to go overboard, right? There's no balance. So it's I just see the scales in this instance of, which goes right along with judgment, right? Well, Yahweh says, I'm the judge, right? And he is righteous and he'll make sure it's all fair, so. Okay, so something that I put together last year, it was a compilation of things that I had been reading. And so I cannot take full credit. I think I didn't mark it. I'm usually very good at marking what is my work and what is not. So I'm not quite sure. So I'm just going to only take credit for the fact that I put it together, because I don't want to infringe on somebody else's work that the Father gave them, but I'm grateful for the sharing that we can all, benefit by. So the title I put to it was Seeing Through and Past Anger. So this is the season to reject the lies that whisper. Oh, let me just start with the beginning. In a nutshell, this month's healing focus is letting go of anger and seeing things in the right light, possibly doing some physical cleansing as well. So there you go. You have Ayin right there, and you still have the lights that we're entering the month into. So this is the season to reject the lies that whisper you are powerless, and cling to the truth that we are truly powerful in Yeshua. Focus this month on taking his authority over your emotions. There you go, putting them in order, right? I was just talking to a friend today, and I said the same thing. I was like, you know what? I had to pray that the Father would take hold of the emotions that he gave me, that he built into us as women. And I asked him to rein them in so that I could hear him when he was talking to me, instead of hearing my own dialogue in my head. We were talking about relationships, right? And so just having the Father take control, or control the anger or the emotions that could lead into it, right? To unrighteous anger. I guess it could be that. Focus this month on taking his authority over your emotions and dealing with the roots of pain and bringing it all under submission to the Father. Matthew 17:21 says, Yeshua explains to his disciples that some types of spiritual authority only come by a lifestyle of prayer and fasting. So this is a good season to begin to grow in that type of authority as well. Fasting is definitely a discipline. It's not easy, but once it becomes a part of your life, you actually look forward to it. So I do take breaks here and there, and I physically feel the effects of it. I'm typically not a big eater, but when you're not used to it, you realize that when you're eating, you can still have the same conversations that you have with the Father, but they're not quite the same. They feel differently than when you can have the same conversation with the Father when you're fasting. And for some reason, I cannot explain it. It surely must be it's a spiritual state that your communication feels quite differently. Not that it's any less sincere, that's for sure. I'm not saying that. I just can only speak from my own experience in that I have definitely felt a difference when I'm not fasting. This may be, let's see. So the liver is associated with Tevet and is often connected to feelings of powerlessness, depression, condemnation, disappointment, indecisiveness, and panic. The meridian for these emotions is active from 1 to 3 a.m. And so sometimes I think about, when I think about that time, 1 to 3 a.m., that's pretty early. That could be a dream time. And quite often our emotions or the things that are in our heart or our mind will come out in dreams at that time. So if we wake up, ask the Father what emotions are being triggered and pray to release them. I think that has to be something mindful. That kind of a prayer, if we wake up, who's going to remember to pray that kind of a prayer? But if we ask the Father to help us to be mindful of those emotions that he may be speaking to us about, then he will remind us, and then we can pray and ask him to release them or to explain things to us. Associating purification with the liver makes sense as we are processing our anger this month. This may be a good time for a liver cleanse. An easy cleanse to drink is warm lemon water first thing in the morning. So that will, I usually drink lemon water throughout the day when I'm fasting, but I'm going to try this. And I mean, I guess it would be like a lemon drennel or something like that. But if you heat it up, it's a cleanse. So I'm going to make a note of it and try that this month and see how it goes. You can also use milk thistle in an herbal form, which is a powerful liver cleanser. So I've seen that as teas. So I think, that those are, we don't have to worry about the amount of the milk thistle if it's already, rationed in a tea bag. As anger, victimization, frustration, and judgments come up, and we need to stop and really look at what's going on. Are we creating a scapegoat and passing blame? If we're having an issue with someone, are those traits in some way part of a shadow of ourselves that we don't like? Often what really borders on about others is also true of ourselves. Are we accepting the role of a scapegoat in our family, work, or other close community? If you are an empathizer, a feeler, or a sensitive person, you are especially vulnerable to taking on other people's emotional junk. This is something that I'm very aware of because I am very sensitive, and I take to heart if someone shares with me. So this has been brought to my attention, and I am being mindful and asking the Father to just allow me to do what I can in terms of prayer and not take on everybody's issues. I guess I just want to encourage us to be aware of where the Father's leading us, because it may not be our baby to rock. It may be just something that we're going to bring before him. We're going to, with love and compassion, we're going to bring it to him in prayer, and we can do that at any point, and we don't have to even be physically connected or involved with that person or that situation. So I think just being prayerfully mindful about where the Father wants us to speak, and where he wants us to act, and where he wants us to pray. Let's see. We can easily be angry at the Father for the past, where we are, and what we continue to deal with. Our attitudes and words can bring life to even the most difficult circumstances. Take time to abandon any kind of victim mentality and realize that we are not stuck, and that we're not sinking uncontrollably in the mud of bitterness, unforgiveness, anxiety, or depression. In what may seem like a sticky situation, we can make a choice as to how we are to react in that situation. So be careful about who we express our anger to, even those unspoken thoughts. I just posted something recently about remembering a time in my life when something very traumatic happened within the family, and I was angry, and I said to the Father, like, if you're God, why didn't you stop this? We don't always have answers, but if we can hold on to the fact that the Father is all about goodness, then he can have answers for us in those areas. And I think that holding on to our faith and remembering and believing that there's nothing but goodness in the Father will safeguard our emotions from having, an overflow of anger in our life, because that anger will turn to bitterness. Throughout Tevet, if we focus on looking deep within what triggers anger and frustration, we can come out of the darkness and into the light, so that true light revealed in the darkness can shine forth. Remember that this is still a dark month, so what comes out of Kislev is revealed in Tevet. So some activation points that may be helpful this month is, we talked about the eye. Let's see. So we are to look for truth in our thoughts, in our intents and behaviors. We also learn to see through Yahweh's eyes. With the eyes of our spirit, present ourselves before him, so that we can view situations from his perspective and not ours or others. Take our thoughts and our intents and actions and hand them to him. Ask him to show you how he sees them. This is a month to see with our spiritual eyes. We can learn how Yahweh is working in our lives to bring us to a level of maturity, so that we can teach others or share with others. Practice exercising your spiritual eyes. As you see evil, practice releasing light into it as you learn to reflect the Father's light. No darkness can stand in the presence of the light and glory of Yahweh. Consider a day of fasting as a form of empowerment over any destruction in your life. In Yeshua, we bring his grace and mercy into any destructive situation, which gives us power over that situation. We aren't doing it alone. We're partnering with the Father. Tevet is a month of cleansing and purification. And as we present ourselves before Yahweh, we learn how to clean the house of our soul. This is where unhealthy thoughts, intents, and actions or behaviors are swept out. Through the eyes of Yahweh, we see a pathway from any darkness in our lives and into the light. So I just had a little prayer thought at the end of this, and I said, Abba, we pray that in your might and power, we break free from the bondage of lies that have kept us feeling powerless. May we be filled with the full knowledge of your identity in Yeshua and the authority that we have as your children. I think that for me personally, growing up in a household where there was a lot of frustration and anger, was just a breeding place of how to operate like that. And I remember as a child or teenager, I would say, when I grow up, I'm never going to be like that. And then I grew up and I found myself many times throughout my life struggling with the overflow of anger and how that sounded. And just thinking about Tisha's, thoughts about the liver, I've asked the Father throughout the years as he continues to transform me to cleanse my organs, to release feelings of unforgiveness. And, those things are maybe easy to say, but they're not easy to do. Releasing, so you have to sometimes very often we bury these feelings that are associated with anger or bitterness or frustration or anxiety. All of these emotions are attached to a memory, to an event, to an experience. And so to be able to, as we grow up, we tend to stuff those things or push them back to a place where we don't think about them anymore. But really, if we don't let them go, if we don't give them over to the Father, then those organs are storing them. They're being stored somewhere. Those memories are being stored somewhere. And so that, I think, is where unhealthy organs come from. Sickness overflows. A couple years back, I had an overflow. My body erupted in a rash that was so horribly itchy. I really thought I was going to lose my mind. And the naturopath that I went to, he said, you know what? Your body, your liver is just detoxing. It's detoxing so quickly that it's just now it's gone through your body, through your bloodstream. And so, that was a long process of healing. But it really made me stop. And it happened in the wintertime. So I'm actually going to try to go back and see what month that rash started. But I remember it was in the wintertime. It was cold and it was dark. Because I remember getting up early and putting on all kind of essential oils, and I started praying that the Father would bless my body with shalom and healing, and wishing my body peace as it healed and released the things within. And it was in that time, I remember in the dark of the morning, that the Father started speaking to me about things that were hidden, things that were now being revealed. Emotions and memories that were triggered and brought forth. And I realized I cannot keep pushing these away and acting like, so what, I'm grown up now. They don't matter. They do matter. Your emotions, if you don't take care of them, they will manifest in physical ways. And so I think that just asking the Father to help us deal with the unresolved issues that are there from our childhood or at some point in our life will help us to become disciplined, so that we will deal with the issues now where we're at, so that they don't become, so they don't build up and they don't erupt in sickness, whether it's because it's going to come out spiritually first, right? And then it will come out physically. So I just encourage everyone to ask the Father. It's a quiet time now. We're going into some quiet months, and it's a slower pace through the winter months. And so maybe this is a really good time to ask the Father to just bring to remembrance those things that are painful, and ask him to help you to release them, so that come spring and the next season of inner work that has to be done, we'll be ready for it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rhonda.
You're welcome.
And I love back when you were talking about connecting our eyes and our anger with, seeing things through the Father's eyes. Because then we're seeing things through his judgment and not our own judgment. And we begin to see things, sometimes we see things through the lens of our childhood eyes, those hurts and those traumas and holding on to those. And then when we begin to realize that the people who hurt us were not in a place to they, not that it writes what they did, but yet they also hurt. They were, they're acting out of theirs. So really kind of processing through that. There's so much that we could go into, and I just thank you for that. I'm gonna share my screen one more time, and then we'll have an after party too, ladies. But I just wanted to, for those who are here. Okay, spiritual warfare, things that we're warring against: our beast nature, ourself, our own idolatry, our world system. So we're praying into those things that are trying to take over our children, take over, our lives, wanting to set things above the Father, like we talked about with the idolatry. And that could look different for everybody. This is a time for cleansing and rededicating your temple. So maybe really think about fasting if that's not something you do regular, or maybe, and like not even just spiritual, but physical, like she was saying, maybe there's some physical things we need to get rid of, but in that we will be praying through the spiritual. When we get things corrected and cleansed in our temple, then we can properly deal with the outside world. The priest could not go in and serve filthy. They themselves had to be cleansed, and things had to be taken care of at home, and they had to, do offerings for their family. They had to have things right so that they could effectively serve and minister to the others. So tonight, ladies, in the 10th month of Tevet, we can put things back in order, judging what's good by reflecting the true light of Yeshua's sacrifice that brings new life. This allows us to see with a good eye, with a generous spirit that results in sharing that sacrificial love. When we are doing this together, we can stand against the evil around us and build each other up as righteous temples. Take time to pray and fast can have effects for generations, like it did in Esther, on our bodies, our families, and our nation. This strengthens our eyes so that we can look out for who might try to lay siege to our walls, even if it's ourselves. So those are things that we need to be aware of. So I just give you those thoughts to end on tonight. We're going to end our recording, and then we'll have a little after party if there's anything else that we want to discuss or talk about. Thank you guys for being here. It's been a great